The night Dante Varric fired every servant in his mansion, the entire estate went silent. Not because people were shocked, because they were terrified. At midnight, more than 30 employees stood in the marble foyer of the Varric estate with their bags packed, their faces pale beneath the glow of the chandelier. Chefs, drivers, gardeners, maids, security assistants, even the old butler who had served Dante's father for 27 years. All of them were dismissed without warning. All of them except one. Sophia Bennett stood near the grand staircase in a plain black dress and white apron, her fingers curled around a silver tray she had forgotten to put down. She had been cleaning the upstairs library when the order came. Everyone out. No explanations, no goodbyes, no second chances. Dante Varric stood at the center of the foyer, dressed in a black suit, his expression calm enough to chill the room. He did not raise his voice. He never had to. "Your final payments have been wired," he said. "Cars are waiting outside." The old butler swallowed. "Sir, all of us?" Dante's dark eyes moved slowly across the room. "Yes." A younger maid burst into tears. A driver lowered his gaze. Someone whispered that a confidential file had leaked from inside the house. Someone else whispered that a rival family now knew the locations of 3 Varric safe houses. Then Dante turned his head toward Sophia. "And Miss Bennett stays." The room froze. Sophia felt every eye shift toward her. She did not understand. She had only worked there for 8 months. She kept to herself, cleaned the West Wing, polished antiques, replaced flowers, and avoided the men who came and went through the mansion after midnight. She was ordinary, invisible, or at least she thought she was. The butler looked at her, then back at Dante. "Sir, with respect, if the leak came from staff..." "It did," Dante said. The silence sharpened. "Then why her?" someone whispered. Dante's face did not change, but his voice lowered. "Because anyone who touches her dies before sunrise." Sophia stopped breathing. Outside, rain lashed against the tall windows. Black SUVs waited along the circular driveway, headlights cutting through the storm. One by one, the dismissed servants were escorted out into the night. Some looked angry, some looked afraid, but all of them looked at Sophia like she had become something dangerous. When the doors finally closed, the mansion felt enormous, empty, haunted. Sophia stood alone in the foyer, with the most feared man in New York. Dante Varric looked at her for a long moment. Then he walked toward her. Sophia forced herself not to step back. "Did I do something wrong?" she asked. His eyes dropped to the tray, trembling in her hands. "No." "Then why am I still here?" Dante stopped close enough for her to smell rain and expensive cologne on his coat. "Because they already know your name." Sophia's throat tightened. "Who?" His gaze lifted to hers. "Everyone." 3 nights earlier, Sophia had found blood on the library floor. Not a lot. Just a thin, dark smear near the Persian rug, half hidden beneath the leg of Dante's desk. She had stared at it for several seconds, her pulse knocking against her ribs, before quietly cleaning it away. She had learned quickly that in the Varric estate, questions were dangerous. The house stood on a private road outside New York, surrounded by iron gates, ancient trees, and security cameras tucked into stone angels. It was not simply a mansion, it was a fortress, dressed as a home. Sophia had been hired after leaving a smaller job in Boston, though she never told anyone why she had left. She said she needed steady work. She said she had no family nearby. She said little else. In the beginning, Dante barely looked at her. He was a presence more than a man, silent footsteps in dark corridors, a black coat disappearing into an armored car, a voice behind closed doors that made powerful men go quiet. But Sophia noticed things. She noticed he never ate breakfast, only black coffee. She noticed he kept fresh white roses in the library but never touched them. She noticed he hated being interrupted, except when she entered a room. Then he would stop speaking. Not always, but enough. Once, she had walked in while he was meeting with 6 men around a long mahogany table. Maps, photos, and sealed envelopes covered the surface. She had lowered her gaze, apologized, and turned to leave. "Stay," Dante had said. The men looked at him as if he had lost his mind. Sophia stood frozen, with a vase in her hands. Dante continued speaking as though nothing had happened, but his eyes kept drifting toward her reflection in the window. That was the first time she felt afraid of being noticed. Now the mansion was empty, and Dante had ordered her to move from the servants' quarters into the guest room beside his private study. For safety, he said. Sophia stood in the doorway of the room, staring at silk curtains, a fireplace, and a bed large enough to make her feel smaller than ever. I'm not sleeping here. Dante stood behind her. You are? I work here. I don't live like this. Tonight you do. She turned to face him. You fired everyone because of a leak, but you kept me. That makes no sense. His expression remained unreadable. It makes perfect sense. Not to me. No, he said softly. Not yet. Sophia's anger rose, sharp enough to cover her fear. I am not one of your prisoners. Dante's eyes darkened. If you were my prisoner, Sophia, you would know. The way he said her name made the room feel smaller. She hated that part of her wanted to know what he meant. That night, Sophia locked the bedroom door. At 2:13 a.m., she woke to the sound of footsteps outside. Not loud, not rushed, controlled. She sat up in bed, her heart pounding. A shadow passed beneath the door. Then Dante's voice came quietly from the hall. Do not open this door for anyone but me. Sophia gripped the blanket. What's happening? A pause. Then his voice again. Someone came for you. The power went out. The mansion dropped into darkness. Sophia heard a distant crash, then the sharp sound of glass breaking somewhere downstairs. She stumbled out of bed and backed away from the door. Her phone had no signal. Another crash. Then silence. Too much silence. The lock clicked. Sophia grabbed the fireplace poker and held it with both hands as the door opened. Dante entered without turning on a light. Rainwater glistened on his black shirt. There was a small cut near his cheekbone, but he moved like nothing could touch him. His eyes found the poker. Good, he said. Good? You reached for a weapon before you screamed. I was considering both. Something almost like amusement passed across his face, then vanished. He held out his hand. Come with me. No. Sophia, tell me what's happening. His jaw tightened. 3 men entered through the east garden. They had your photograph. Her stomach turned cold. My photograph? Yes. Why? Dante stepped closer. Because someone told them you were the one thing in this house I would not replace. Sophia stared at him. And are they right? For the first time, Dante did not answer immediately. Outside the bedroom, men shouted in Italian. A gunshot cracked through the dark hallway. Sophia flinched. Dante moved before she could breathe. He pulled her behind him, one arm cutting across her body like a wall. His voice dropped. Stay close. The hallway outside was lit by emergency lights, red and dim like the inside of a nightmare. 2 of Dante's guards rushed past them. Sophia saw broken glass scattered across the floor and rain blowing through an open window. Dante led her through a hidden door behind a portrait and into a narrow passage inside the walls. Sophia's bare feet touched cold stone. You have tunnels in your house? She whispered. I have enemies. That's not an answer. It is the only answer that matters. They moved through darkness. Sophia could hear his breathing, steady and controlled. Hers came too fast. At the end of the passage, they entered a small underground room filled with monitors. Security feeds showed every corner of the estate. The foyer, the gardens, the servant quarters, her old room. Sophia stepped closer to one screen and went still. Her former room had been destroyed. The bed slashed open, the drawers overturned, her small suitcase ripped apart. On the wall, someone had written one sentence in black paint. She remembers. Sophia's knees nearly gave out. Dante caught her before she fell. His hand closed around her waist, firm but careful. What does that mean? She whispered. His face was inches from hers now. In the glow of the monitors, his eyes looked almost black. It means they are afraid of what you saw. I didn't see anything. You did. No, I didn't. His thumb brushed once against her side, as if he had forgotten where his hand was. Then he let go. 3 years ago, Dante said, there was a fire in a hotel in Boston. The top floor burned before emergency services arrived. 11 people died. Sophia's skin went cold. She turned away. No, Sophia, no. You were there. I said no. You were pulled from the service stairwell unconscious. No identification. Smoke inhalation. Head trauma. Her breath shortened. A hotel corridor flashed behind her eyes. Smoke. A woman screaming. A gold elevator door opening. A man in a grey suit turning toward her with blood on his cuff. Sophia pressed both hands to her temples. I don't remember. Dante watched her with a kind of stillness that felt more dangerous than anger. I know. How? Because I have been looking for the survivor since the night it happened. She turned slowly. The truth moved between them like a blade. You knew who I was before you hired me. Yes. Sophia slapped him. The sound cracked through the underground room. One of the guards near the door turned, stunned. Dante did not move. He simply looked back at her, his cheek slowly reddening. Sophia's voice shook. You brought me here on purpose. Yes. You used me. Yes. The honesty hurt more than a lie. Was any of it real? She whispered. His expression changed, just slightly. Not softness. Something worse. Regret. I thought I could keep it from becoming real. Before Sophia could answer, one of the monitors went black. Then another. Then another. Dante turned. His guard said, Sir. The west gate just opened. Dante's face became ice. De Luca. Sophia heard that name like a memory trying to break through a wall. Lorenzo De Luca. A champagne glass failing. A woman whispering, Don't let him see you. A hand grabbing Sophia's wrist. Run. The emergency lights flickered. Dante took Sophia's hand. This time she did not pull away. They escaped through the tunnels beneath the mansion and emerged inside a private garage where 3 black SUVs waited with engines running. Rain hammered the roof. Sophia was pushed into the back seat beside Dante. The vehicle surged forward before her door fully closed. Through the rear window, she saw the Varric estate behind them. Flames had begun to rise from the east wing. Her old life burned in silence. Dante sat beside her, one hand resting near his knee, the other holding a phone as he issued orders in a calm, deadly voice. Lock the bridges. Freeze every De Luca account routed through Manhattan. Find the servant who opened the gate. Sophia turned toward him. Servant? His gaze stayed forward. The leak came from someone inside the estate. You fired all of them because you didn't know who? I fired all of them because I knew they would run to whoever paid them. And me? His eyes shifted to her. You stayed because I needed them to believe you mattered. She laughed once, bitter and broken. So I really am bait. Dante's silence answered. Sophia looked out at the rain-smeared city lights. Pull over. No. Pull over. No. I won't stay beside a man who used me as a trap. Dante leaned closer, his voice quiet enough that only she could hear. If you leave this car, you will be dead before dawn. Then maybe you should have told me the truth before turning my life into a war. Something in his expression cracked. I did not turn your life into a war, Sophia. I found you standing in the middle of one. They drove into Manhattan just before sunrise. Dante took her to a penthouse above the city. So high the streets below looked like veins of light. The apartment was cold, elegant, and guarded by men who never looked directly at her. Sophia was given clothes, a locked bedroom, and silence. She refused all 3. By noon, she walked into Dante's office wearing one of his oversized black shirts because her clothes had been ruined in the escape. Dante looked up from his desk. For a moment, the room changed. His eyes moved from her bare legs to the cuffs falling over her hands, then back to her face. His expression stayed controlled, but his fingers tightened around his pen. I need answers, she said. You need rest. I need answers. Dante leaned back. Sit down. I'll stand. Of course you will. That irritated her more than it should have. He opened a drawer and took out a folder. Inside were photographs from the Boston hotel fire. Sophia saw the burned exterior, ambulances, police tape, and a blurry image of herself being carried out by a firefighter. Her name then had not been Sophia Bennett. It had been Clara Vale. She stared at the old name in the file until her vision blurred. I changed it after the hospital, Dante said. Witness protection moved you twice. Then someone inside the program sold your location. Sophia looked up sharply. Witness protection? Yes. I was in witness protection for 6 months. Then you disappeared. I didn't disappear. I was scared. You were smart. Herr Enger faltered. Dante turned another page. A photograph showed Lorenzo De Luca at a charity gala. Handsome, smiling, untouchable. The night of the fire. Dante said. The heads of 5 families met at the Belmont Hotel. Someone recorded them. Someone saw who ordered the killings that started the current war. Sophia's voice came out thin. And you think that someone was me? I know it was you. I don't remember. You will. And when I do. His eyes held hers. Everyone who has been hunting you loses their shield. Sophia understood then. Not all at once. But enough. She was not being protected because she was innocent. She was being protected because she was evidence. And you? She asked. What do you lose? Dante's face gave nothing away. Nothing I cannot replace. The lie sat between them. Sophia stepped closer to the desk. Is that why you kept me in your house? Why you watched me? Why you let me clean your rooms and serve your guests while knowing people wanted me dead? Yes. Her eyes burned. Then you're worse than they are. Dante stood slowly. No, he said. I am the reason they failed. For several days, Sophia lived inside the penthouse like a ghost. Dante did not touch her. He barely spoke to her unless necessary. But he watched everything. When she skipped meals, food appeared outside her door. When she sat by the window at night, a guard moved closer. When she tried to leave the penthouse alone, the elevator refused to open. On the fourth night, Sophia found the surveillance room. It was hidden behind a wine shelf in Dante's private lounge. She discovered it by accident while looking for the kitchen. The shelf opened slightly under her hand, revealing a narrow room full of screens and files. At first, she thought it was only business. Then she saw herself. Photographs. Dozens. No. Hundreds. Sophia at a flower market in Boston. Sophia leaving a laundromat in Queens. Sophia sitting on a park bench with coffee. Sophia entering the Varric estate on her first day. Sophia asleep in the back seat of a car after the attack. Her breath vanished. On the center table lay a single folder marked Bennett. Veil. Dante found her there. He stopped in the doorway. Sophia slowly turned, holding one of the photographs. How long? His face remained still, but his eyes changed. Since I found your trail. How long, Dante? 2 years. The room tilted. You watched me for 2 years? Yes. You followed me. I protected you. You stalked me. I kept you alive. She threw the photograph at him. You don't get to decide that those are the same thing. He stepped inside and shut the door behind him. I had enemies searching for you. Federal agents selling information. DeLuca men bribing hospital staff. If I had approached you openly, you would have run. If you ran, they would have found you. So you hired me? I placed you somewhere I could control every entrance, every camera, every person who came near you. Your mansion. Yes. My job. My room. My entire life. My protection. My cage. His jaw tightened. Sophia stepped closer, shaking with fury. Did you ever feel guilty watching me make your coffee? Watching me fold your shirts? Watching me walk past you every day with no idea you knew my real name? Dante looked at her for a long time. Then he said, every day. The answer disarmed her. She hated that it did. He moved closer, slowly enough that she could step back. She didn't. His voice lowered. The first month, you flinched whenever a door closed too hard. The second month, you started humming in the kitchen when you thought no one could hear you. By the fourth month, you stopped checking the locks 3 times. Sophia's eyes filled despite herself. Dante's face was close now. I told myself I was keeping evidence alive. Then one night I came home covered in blood, and you left a towel outside my study without asking why. You placed it there like mercy was something I deserved. He lifted his hand as if to touch her face. Stopped. Let it fall. That was when I knew I had made a mistake. Sophia whispered. What mistake? His eyes burned into hers. Letting you become human to me. The air between them changed. Dangerous. Intimate. Wrong. Then his phone rang. Dante answered without looking away from her. His expression hardened. A voice spoke on speaker. Tell your housekeeper to check the news. The line went dead. Sophia turned toward the monitors. Every major local news channel was showing the same headline. Mafia Boss hides secret mistress inside Manhattan penthouse. A blurry photograph showed Sophia entering the building beside Dante. Another showed him holding her waist in the underground security room. The anchor's voice filled the room. Sources claim Sophia Bennett, a former servant at the Varric estate, may be the reason behind last week's violent attack. Sophia stepped back. No. Dante's face went cold in a way she had not seen before. Lorenzo DeLuca had not killed her. He had made her famous, By morning, Sophia's face was everywhere. Reporters waited outside the building. Blogs called her Dante Varric's hidden lover. Rival families called her his weakness. Federal agents called her a missing witness. The underworld called her dead woman walking. Dante called an emergency meeting at the Meridian Club, an underground casino beneath a closed theater in Brooklyn. Sophia was told to stay upstairs. She didn't. She walked into the club wearing a black dress chosen by Dante's stylist and a coat that cost more than her old apartment. The room went quiet the moment she entered. Men with diamonds on their watches and blood on their reputations turned to stare. Dante sat at the head of a private table. His eyes locked on her. For 1 second, anger flashed across his face. Then something possessive replaced it. He stood. Every man in the club stood with him. Sophia walked toward him, her heart pounding, refusing to look afraid. When she reached the table, Dante leaned close. "I told you to stay upstairs." She lifted her chin. "I stopped taking orders from you." His mouth almost curved. Almost. Lorenzo De Luca sat at the opposite end of the room, dressed in a white dinner jacket, smiling like a man watching a fire spread exactly as planned. "Sophia Bennett," Lorenzo called. "Or should I say Clara Vale?" The room sharpened. Dante moved before anyone else reacted. He stepped in front of Sophia, blocking her completely from Lorenzo's view. Lorenzo laughed softly. "There it is. The famous Varric restraint." Dante's voice was quiet. "Say her name again." "Which one?" Dante's men reached beneath their jackets. Sophia grabbed Dante's sleeve. Not because she wanted to protect Lorenzo, because she saw the trap. "Don't," she whispered. Dante did not look at her. Lorenzo leaned back. "She is not your queen, Dante. She is a witness, a servant, a frightened girl who saw something she was too weak to understand." Sophia stepped out from behind Dante. The room shifted. Dante's hand caught her wrist gently, warning her not to move farther. She looked directly at Lorenzo. "I may not remember everything," she said, "but I remember your voice." Lorenzo's smile faded. Sophia felt Dante go still beside her. She continued, her voice trembling but clear. "You said, burn the floor before morning." For the first time, Lorenzo De Luca looked afraid. Only for a heartbeat, but Dante saw it. Everyone saw it. Then the lights in the club went out. Chaos erupted. Men shouted. Glass shattered. Someone screamed. Dante pulled Sophia against him and shoved her beneath the table as shots exploded through the dark. Sophia covered her ears, panic tearing through her chest. Dante crouched over her, one arm braced beside her head, his body shielding hers from the violence ripping through the room. "Look at me," he ordered. She couldn't. "Sophia." Her eyes snapped to his. In the flashing emergency lights, his face hovered inches above hers, calm, focused, terrifying. "You are not dying here." A bullet struck the table above them. She flinched into him. His hand closed around the back of her neck, firm and warm. "Breathe." "I can't." "Yes, you can." His forehead nearly touched hers. "For me." Something about those two words broke through the panic. "For me." Not as an order. As a confession he had not meant to make. His men formed a wall around them and pushed them toward a back corridor. Dante kept Sophia locked against his side, moving with lethal precision through smoke, broken glass, and screams. At the exit, Lorenzo appeared at the far end of the corridor. For a moment, the two men stared at each other through the chaos. Lorenzo lifted a phone. Dante's phone buzzed. A video appeared on the screen. Sophia saw a little girl sitting in a candlelit church pew, clutching a stuffed rabbit. A girl with dark curls, wide eyes, a trembling mouth. Sophia stopped breathing. Below the video was one message. Ask her what she forgot. Sophia's world collapsed. The girl looked at the camera and whispered, "Mommy?" Dante's hand tightened around the phone until the screen cracked. Sophia stared at him. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." The memory came like a door being kicked open. The Boston hotel. A crying baby in her arms. A woman bleeding beside the elevator. "Take her," the woman had gasped. "Please, don't let De Luca find her." Sophia, running through smoke. The child screaming. Someone hitting Sophia from behind. The stairwell. The fire. Then nothing. Sophia swayed. Dante caught her. "I had a child?" she whispered. Dante's face had gone pale beneath his control. "No," he said. "Not yours." "Then why did she call me mommy?" "Because for 3 months after the fire, you were the only person she remembered." Sophia's knees weakened. "Where is she?" Dante's voice turned deadly. "With Lorenzo." The girl's name was Isabella. She was the daughter of Elena De Luca, Lorenzo's sister, who had tried to betray her own family by recording the hotel meeting. Elena had planned to expose the Mafia alliance that had murdered judges, bought police captains, and started wars for profit. Sophia had been working at the Belmont Hotel that night as a temporary cleaner. Wrong place, wrong floor, wrong life. Elena had given Sophia the recording and begged her to save Isabella. Sophia had hidden the child in a laundry cart and tried to get her out through the service stairwell, but Lorenzo had found them. The fire had erased most of the witnesses. Sophia had survived with a head injury and no memory. Isabella had vanished, and Dante had spent 3 years searching for both. "You found me first," Sophia said in the penthouse. Hours after the attack, Dante stood by the window, watching the storm over Manhattan. "Yes. And Isabella?" His silence was enough. Sophia's voice broke. "You didn't tell me there was a child. I didn't know if your mind could survive it. That wasn't your choice." "No," he said. "It was my failure." She looked at him then, truly looked. Dante Varric, feared by families, hunted by governments, obeyed by killers, looked like a man standing before the only judgment that mattered. "Yes. Why do you care?" she asked. "About me, about her, about any of this." His eyes stayed on the rain. "Because Elena De Luca came to me before she died." Sophia went still. "She gave me evidence against my father," Dante said. "Not just Lorenzo, mine too. The fire was not ordered by one family. It was approved by 5, including Varric." The room seemed to lose air. "My father helped kill those people," he continued. "Then he died 6 months later, leaving me an empire built on ashes," Sophia whispered. "So protecting me destroys your own family." Dante turned. "Yes. And you still did it?" His eyes held hers. "At first, because I wanted revenge. And now?" He crossed the room slowly. Sophia's breath caught. He stopped in front of her, close enough to touch, but didn't. "Now I would burn the family name myself if it meant you walked out alive." The words hit harder than any kiss could have. Sophia wanted to step back. She wanted to hate him cleanly. But nothing about Dante Varric was clean. He had used her, protected her, lied to her, saved her, turned her into bait, then stood between her and every bullet fired because of it. She looked down. "I don't know how to trust you." His voice softened. "Then don't." She looked up. "Survive me first." 2 days later, Sophia agreed to help recover Isabella. Not because Dante ordered it, because the little girl's voice haunted her every breath. Lorenzo demanded a trade. Sophia for Isabella. The meeting location was St. Agnes, an abandoned church near the river, its stained glass windows boarded up, its bell tower cracked by years of storms. Dante refused instantly. Sophia accepted before he finished refusing. They argued in his office with a violence that had nothing to do with weapons. "You are not going," he said. "She is a child. She is bait." "So any." His face hardened. "Not anymore." Sophia stepped closer. "That's convenient. You were willing to risk me when it served your plan." Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. "That was before." "Before what?" He said nothing. She laughed bitterly. "Before you decided I mattered?" Dante's control fractured. "You mattered the moment I stopped sleeping because I was watching your door." Sophia froze. He turned away, breathing hard. "I have done unforgivable things. I know that. But do not stand there and tell me I can place you in Lorenzo's hands and call it strategy." Her anger softened, despite herself. "Dante." He looked back at her. The rawness in his eyes made her chest ache. "If he takes you," Dante said quietly, "there will be no version of me left worth saving." The room fell silent. Sophia moved closer. This time, when he lifted his hand, he did not stop. His fingers brushed her cheek with impossible restraint. A touch so gentle it hurt. Sophia closed her eyes. For 1 second, the war disappeared. Then the door opened. A guard cleared his throat. "Sir, we found the servant." The traitor was the old butler, the man who had served the Varric family for 27 years. He was found in a safe house in Queens, trying to flee the country with a fake passport and $5 million in DeLuca money. Dante had him brought to the penthouse. Sophia watched from behind the glass wall of the interrogation room, unable to look away. The butler was shaking. Dante stood before him, calm as winter. "Why?" Dante asked. The old man wept. "Your father promised Lorenzo the girl would be dead. When you kept her, when you brought Miss Bennett into the house, I knew what she was. You opened the gate. I had no choice." Dante leaned closer. "There is always a choice." The butler's eyes flicked towards Sophia behind the glass. "I'm sorry," he whispered. Sophia's stomach twisted. Dante turned his head slightly, following the man's gaze. The butler saw the change in Dante's face and began to panic. "Sir, please." Dante's voice dropped. "You betrayed my house." The room went cold. Sophia stepped back from the glass. She did not ask what happened next. She only knew Dante came to her later with clean hands and dead eyes. "You should not have watched," he said. Sophia sat on the edge of the bed. "I needed to understand what kind of man you are." "And?" She looked at him. "I'm still trying to decide." Pain moved through his expression so quickly she almost missed it. He nodded once and turned to leave. "Don't you?" He stopped. Sophia's voice was quiet. "I'm going to St. Agnes." His shoulders went rigid. "And you're going to help me bring her home." The exchange happened at midnight in the rain. St. Agnes rose from the fog like a broken memory, its stone steps slick, its doors hanging crooked. Dante's men surrounded the area from a distance. Lorenzo's men waited closer, hidden in shadows. Sophia wore a wire beneath her coat. Dante stood in front of her beside the car, black suit soaked by rain, eyes fixed on the church. He looked calm, too calm. "You stay behind me until I tell you otherwise," he said. "I thought I was the trade. You are not a thing to be traded. You didn't always believe that." His jaw tightened. "No, I didn't." The honesty settled between them. Sophia looked at his face, at the rain sliding down his cheek, at the man who had built walls so high he had mistaken control for safety. "Don't you?" His eyes lowered to hers. "If this goes wrong, it won't." "If it does," she whispered, "save Isabella first." "No, don't you?" "No. She's a child. You are mine." The words landed like thunder. Not soft, not romantic in the easy way. Possessive, terrifying, honest. Sophia should have hated them. Instead, her heart broke open. Dante seemed to realize what he had said only after it was too late. He looked away. "I mean, I know what you mean," she said. For the first time, Sophia reached for him. Her fingers touched his wrist. He went completely still. Then she stepped past him and walked toward the church. Inside St. Agnes, candles burned along the aisle. Lorenzo DeLuca stood near the altar, holding Isabella's hand. The little girl looked smaller than she had on video. Sophia's chest tightened. Isabella stared at her, then whispered, "You came back." Sophia nearly collapsed. "I did," she said softly. Lorenzo smiled. "How touching." Dante entered behind Sophia, his presence changing the air. Lorenzo looked delighted. The great Dante Varric, brought to his knees by a housekeeper. Dante's voice was calm. "Let the child go. Give me Clara." "Sophia," Dante said. Lorenzo laughed. "You renamed her too? How sentimental." Sophia stepped forward. "I remember the hotel." Lorenzo's smile faded. "I remember Elena," she said. "I remember the recording. I remember you starting the fire." His face hardened. "Memory is fragile." "Not anymore." She reached into her coat and pulled out a small silver cross. Dante's eyes sharpened. Sophia had found it in the lining of her old suitcase after the mansion attack. She had thought it was jewelry. It wasn't. Inside was a hidden drive. Elena's recording. The final proof. Lorenzo stared at it, then smiled slowly. "You brought it here?" Sophia's blood went cold. Dante moved instantly. Too late. The church doors slammed shut behind them. Men emerged from the shadows above the balcony. Lorenzo pulled Isabella back. Dante's hand closed around Sophia's arm, dragging her behind him as the church exploded into violence. Gunfire cracked through the nave. Stained glass shattered overhead, raining colored fragments across the pews. Dante's men stormed through side doors. Lorenzo's men fired from the balcony. Sophia crawled beneath a pew, clutching the drive. Isabella screamed. Dante moved through the chaos like something carved from darkness. He disarmed one man, shoved another through a rotted confessional, and crossed the aisle toward Lorenzo with a fury Sophia had never seen. But Lorenzo had Isabella. Sophia saw the little girl crying near the altar. She also saw the candle flames climbing the old velvet curtains. Fire. The memory slammed into her. Smoke in the hotel corridor. Elena pushing the cross into her hand. Save my daughter. Sophia stood. Dante shouted her name. She ran toward Isabella. Lorenzo turned. Sophia did not stop. She threw herself between Lorenzo and the child, grabbed Isabella, and pulled her behind the altar as a bullet tore through the wooden panel beside them. Dante reached Lorenzo in the next second. The two men crashed into the altar steps, violence and rage, and years of buried blood between them. Sophia covered Isabella's ears. "Don't look," she whispered. The fire spread fast. Smoke filled the church. Dante's men shouted for evacuation. Lorenzo, bleeding and wild-eyed, crawled toward Sophia. "You ruined everything," he hissed. Sophia stood with Isabella behind her. "No," she said. "I remembered." Lorenzo lunged. Dante appeared behind him and struck him down with brutal finality. For one moment, Dante stood in the burning church, covered in rain, ash and blood, staring at Sophia like she was the last living thing in his world. Then part of the ceiling collapsed. He reached Sophia and Isabella as flames roared across the aisle. He lifted the child into one arm and grabbed Sophia with the other. "Hold on to me." Sophia did. They ran through smoke and falling wood, through firelight and shattered glass, out into the storm where black SUVs and red emergency lights blurred together. Outside, Isabella clung to Dante's neck. Sophia collapsed against the church steps. Dante handed the child to a guard and dropped to his knees in front of Sophia. His hands gripped her face. "Sophia, I'm okay. You ran toward him. She needed me. I needed you." The words tore out of him. Raw. Uncontrolled. Human. Sophia looked at him through rain and smoke. For the first time, Dante Varric looked afraid. Not of death. Of losing her. She lifted a trembling hand to his face. "I'm here." His forehead dropped to hers. Around them, the church burned. The war ended before dawn. Elena's recording was released to every federal office, every news station, every enemy of the 5 families. Arrests began before sunrise. Judges resigned. Police captains vanished. Old alliances collapsed. The Varric name burned with the rest. Dante did not stop it. He stood beside Sophia at a luxury hospital overlooking the East River, while Isabella slept in a room guarded by men who now answered to Sophia as much as him. News anchors called Dante a traitor to his own bloodline. The underworld called him insane. Sophia knew the truth. He had chosen. Not power. Not legacy. Her. Days later, Sophia found him alone on the hospital rooftop, watching snow fall over the city. He had not slept. He had barely spoken. The powerful man everyone feared looked strangely lonely beneath the winter sky. Sophia walked up beside him. "You lost everything," she said. Dante looked over the city. "No, your alliances, your family name, half your empire, all replaceable." She turned toward him. "And me?" His eyes met hers. "Never." The word was quiet. Absolute. Sophia's heart ached. "I don't know what we become after this." Dante nodded. "I don't either. You lied to me." "Yes." "You used me." "Yes." "You protected me." "Yes." "You loved me?" He went still. Snow gathered on the shoulders of his black coat. For a long time he said nothing. Then he turned fully toward her. "I don't know how to love gently," he said. "I only know how to stand between you and whatever comes next." Sophia's eyes filled. "That's not enough." "I know." He stepped closer. Slowly. "But I will learn." The space between them disappeared. This time, when he lifted his hand, he did not stop. He touched her cheek like she was something sacred. Sophia closed her eyes. Then she kissed him. It was not soft at first. It was grief, relief, anger, survival. A confession made without words. Dante held her like the city might try to take her from him again. But for the first time, his hands did not feel like a cage. They felt like a promise. 1 year later, The Varric estate reopened. Not as a mafia fortress. As a protected home for witnesses and children with nowhere safe to go. The servants' quarters became bedrooms. The east wing was rebuilt with sunlight and white curtains. The old library became a legal archive filled with evidence that had once been buried. Sophia no longer wore a housekeeper's uniform. She ran the house. Isabella lived there too, filling the halls with laughter that made even Dante's guards soften when they thought no one was watching. On the first snowy night of winter, Sophia stood in the marble foyer where everything had begun. The chandelier glowed above her. The same staircase curved behind her. The same rain-dark windows reflected the same man approaching from the doorway. Dante entered quietly, removing his black gloves. He still wore power like a second skin. He was still feared, still dangerous, still not a soft man. But when he saw Sophia, the coldness left his eyes. Only for her. Always for her. "You fired every servant in this house once," she said. He stopped in front of her. "I did, and kept only me." His gaze lowered to her mouth, then returned to her eyes. "I was selfish. You were strategic. I was terrified." Sophia smiled faintly. "Of me?" Dante stepped closer. "Of needing you." Outside, snow covered the iron gates. Inside, the mansion breathed with warmth, with second chances, with secrets finally dragged into the light. Sophia reached for his hand. This time, no one was watching from the shadows. No enemies waited beyond the door. No lies stood between them. Dante bent his head and kissed her knuckles. "Stay," he whispered. Sophia looked around the mansion that had once been her cage, then her battlefield, then her home. Her fingers tightened around his. "I already did." And for the first time in his life, Dante Varric did not feel like a man guarding an empire. He felt like a man who had finally come home,